Who knew there were 5 types of wholesaling? Hi, I'm Dave Dinkel. Real estate investing takes many forms, including but not limited to investing in REOs or bank-owned properties, short sale purchases, lease options, tax deed purchases, tax certificate ownership, using creative financing to control properties, landlording, and many other forms of controlling the ownership or income from a property. One of the most powerful, if not the most powerful form of real estate investing is putting a property under contract with the seller, finding a buyer for the property, and then doing a double closing or assignment of contract to complete the 2 transactions. Some states have different requirements about whether you're selling a contract or the actual property, but wholesaling can be done and is done legally in every state. The truly spectacular benefit of wholesaling is that investors can generate huge incomes with little money, such as minimal earnest money deposit, EMD, or no money whatsoever. This concept's often hard to grasp by beginning investors, but it is the mainstay of professional investors worldwide. I have a website that shows numerous moneyless wholesale transactions where the investor made profits of many thousands of dollars, from $4,900 to over $80,000, with only a small earnest money deposit or no money in the transactions. The website is www.transactionalfundingfl.com. Wholesaling is the easiest and most beneficial place for new investors to start their careers. This is simply because there are no monetary requirements, no credit requirements, and no market risk for wholesale deals done correctly. Wholesaling is usually considered the buying and selling of a property below fair market value, which entails the finding of deals at below market prices and reselling them often to rehabbers, who sometimes make less money than the wholesaler who purchased the property. Getting a good deal price-wise is the cornerstone of all other types of investing, where the investor can make large sums of money in a very short time, often in one day. If a property is not contracted below market value, the investor will have to create equity in the deal, typically by rehabbing it. This means the investor has to purchase the property with cash of his own or a loan, which is where the risk of rehabbing begins. This purchase of the property creates the real fear that many investors have of bleeding to death in a property. The loss of money can come from underestimating repairs, workmen who do not finish the job timely, cost of hard money, inability to sell the rehab property timely, code or permitting problems, and a host of other issues that the investors didn't anticipate. My most successful students learn to be strong wholesalers and pick the very best properties they get to rehab. Even while they're rehabbing, they continue to wholesale to have a cash flow until their rehabs can be sold. As a real-life example, which is in a video interview I did elsewhere on this site, my student completed 51 closings in a year. 36 were wholesale deals, 2 were kept for income, and the other 13 were rehabbed. His net income after all expenses resulted in a net profit of almost $920,000. Had he not done the wholesale deals, he could not have completed the rehabs because of the cash flow issues. Last year, this student completed 95 closings and in about the same ratio as the year before, but doubling his net profit. What many investors and even pros in the industry do not realize is there are 5 distinct methods or techniques of wholesaling. Every one of the wholesaling types can be extremely profitable, but all fit in the criteria of no money, no credit requirements, and no risk. Let's start with traditional wholesaling, which is what investors know as buying a property at a price below what it can be resold for to another investor, landlord, or rehabber. Ideally, the investor buyer resells and makes a profit by assigning his contract, selling his contract, or doing a double closing. Typically, investors are taught to make so-called perfect offers by estimating what value an end buyer will pay for his wholesale deal. This is loosely referred to as the maximum allowable offer, or MAO. All is well and good, but in active markets, by the time this value is calculated, the property may well be sold. More importantly, this equation is subject to some potential errors, including what is ARV and what are the actual repair estimates. A buyer will always do his own estimates of ARV and repairs. One buyer may be able to do the repairs for $10,000, while another will estimate $50,000, or at least say $50,000, to get the investor to reduce his profit spread. While it's a common practice by many investors, I suggest a seller never estimate ARV or repairs, since an end buyer can later sue and claim the estimates of ARV and repairs misled him, and as a result he lost money. If you believe you can't be sued or you're in the right, you may be in for a surprise one day. This will be when that end buyer sues you for something outrageously stupid, but he still sues you. It may take a while to resolve the issue, but you'll soon discover that the only winners are the attorneys. For this explanation, let's say that the traditional wholesaling is simply getting a property and reselling it to an end buyer at a profit without doing any rehab whatsoever. If you're doing a rehab at all, you'll be holding the property, and you're technically designated as a flipper. Over a year ago, I did a seminar on something I thought everyone knew about, but I was wrong. I called the seminar Wholesaling to Wholesalers, which is the second type of wholesaling. I was shocked that after the seminar, some of my most successful students came up to me and said I had opened a whole new world to them. 2 months later, one called to tell me he had netted $87,500 that month using wholesaling to wholesaler techniques. He is now one of the most successful wholesalers in our area and often sells other students deals that they can't sell themselves. The strategy here is to build a strong buyers list and remarket other wholesalers' deals to your buyers list and, more importantly, to other wholesalers. This technique immediately allows you to have inventory, which you'll need to keep your buyers list alive. Most importantly, your chances of selling a wholesale deal are almost viral as your list gets larger and larger. You can quickly build your buyers list by finding realtors who get constant requests for deals from investors who are cash buyers. Realtors are perceived to be the source of deals that come from the MLS. Any real deal will sell in minutes or in a couple of days. That is not the case, and even more disturbing is that many agents became realtors to be able to find their own investor deals. Once they realize that getting deals is more difficult, they just quit being licensed. One of the greatest ways to be a landlord without ever dealing with tenants and toilets is to wholesale rental properties, which is the third type of wholesaling. The average landlord lasts about 3.5 years before he goes screaming into the night and he becomes a motivated seller. You can spot these guys and gals at the eviction hearings pleading with an unsympathetic judge about how the tenant destroyed his property. Unfortunately, tenants have more rights than landlords. We do the opposite. We evaluate a multifamily property using an old formula that I devised to make cap rate calculations in 3 seconds or less using only the gross monthly rental income as a variable. Doesn't matter about the condition of the property, whether it has tenants or what the tenants are paying. P.S. It has nothing to do with the gross annual income for the diehards who do it the complicated way. We then make an offer to the seller of the property on a cap rate using a high percentage of income and resell at a lower cap rate or percentage return to a motivated buyer and usually a new landlord. The profit potential is very predictable at 2.5 to 3.5 years of net income to us as wholesalers, and we take this profit away at the closing. These actual gains can be from $30,000 to over $100,000, depending on the number of rental units or doors. One of the laziest ways to make a ton of money is recycling other wholesalers' deals. In this take on wholesaling, you build your buyers list as usual, but you carefully track every other wholesaler's deals to see if they close and to see who his buyers are. You'll quickly notice that many of the other wholesalers' deals do not close, and it could be as much as 60% failure to close for certain wholesalers. The original seller is now more motivated and is likely to take a lower price than he did with a previous wholesaler. All you need to do is track every wholesaler's offering list you can, or an assistant can do this for you. When they don't close, you go after the sellers directly, whether the property is listed or not. In fact, one student recently told me that he was getting 2 to 3 deals a month from a local famous wholesaler who had too many properties on his wholesale list to properly manage them. He called me from a beach in Costa Rica to tell me this because he asked me to fund the deal he had just recycled. The greatest asset an investor has is his buyers list, and the sooner you learn this, the better. you can be a monster profit machine simply by building a very powerful buyer's list. These are not emails of card swappers at your local RIAs. These are the hardy souls who have purchased properties for cash, for wholesaling or flipping, and who can easily be found in the public record. By tracking who purchases other wholesalers' deals, you are offered these buyers on a silver platter. Unfortunately, the last wholesale tactic is actually illegal, immoral, and pathetic. In the eyes of the individuals doing black hat wholesaling, they believe that the world is a jungle and that stealing deals from unwary investors is a common practice. Their strategy is very simple. They join every wholesaler's list, but with only one intent. As soon as the wholesaler has a new property to put out on his email list, these black hatters immediately rush to the property owner, seller, and offer more money than the wholesaler did. They also trash the other wholesaler's reputation and tell the unsuspecting property owner that the contract he signed was invalid. Before the seller knows what happened, he is following the black hatter's instructions and canceling his contract with the other wholesaler. The seller doesn't realize that he can't just cancel his original contract, but the black hatter herds him to his closing agent, and before the original wholesaler realizes it, the seller has closed with the black hatter and he's left the property. This method of theft is estimated to be over $1 billion a year. The ironic part is that many investors didn't even know that it happened until it was too late. In summary, some people will say to you that there is only one type of wholesaling, and what I've shown you are just variations. The fact is that each and every one of the above 5 examples is and has been used by my students and thousands of other investors to make a substantial living with no money, no credit, and no market risk. Yes, unfortunately, even a few of my students have gone to the dark side and are doing black hat wholesaling. I wish you limitless success. I'm Dave Dinkel.